Okay, real quickly. Heaven is home, life is camping. That's what I got out of chapter 20, verse 9. They surrounded the camp of the saints. Those millennial saints give up their farm and whatever comforts they had there to live in a temporary type of place in the camp of the saints. That's what it says. What does it mean? Well, they stay close to God's temple. They stay close to each other. They're realizing more and more people in the world aren't into God, and they want to be around people with God. There's always been God's desire that we stay close to Him and not ever get comfortable with the world. It's just another beautiful picture. Peter reminds us we're like living in a tent here on earth. That's what 2 Peter 1:13 and 14 say. Life is just camping. The best is yet to come. This world is not our home. We're just pilgrims and strangers. Can you imagine what you sitting here could do with your life if you did not get totally into spending every moment of your life getting as much of this earth as possible? We went camping, Bonnie, my wonderful wife Bonnie. I saw you. You're very distracting. But she's back. We went camping with this family. He was an international banker. Unbelievable. I could talk about him. He'd commuted to London for his job and all this stuff. They had never been camping in their life. Their idea of camping was going, to the Ritz-Carlton or something. And we said, no, we're going to sleep in tents and sleeping bags on the ground in the rain in Prince Edward Island because we were all watching Annie, or what was her name? Not Annie. What? Anne with an E, that one, and all that, the book, and it's all there. And so we watched it, and the kids read the book, and we wanted to go there. So we went camping on Prince Edward Island. They had never been camping. They came with this minivan. They had more camping gear, I think, than LL Bean, and there they were. It was just weighted down. When they put their tent up, they had like a palace tent. We had a little tent, because I know how hard it is to take it down in the rain and everything. So we just had a big enough tent for our family. And when I put in the stakes, I just do them lightly with my foot, because you have to get them out in the middle of the night when you're going to the ferry. And so, not Rick, he bought a mallet, the LL Bean mallet, and he bought the extra length stakes, and he put the first one in, his son held it, and he went like he was putting up a circus tent. He buried that peg out of sight. At the last day, the ferry was at 6 a.m. It was an hour's drive away. We had to get up at 3 a.m., pack, and it was pouring. And so what I did is I grabbed the kids, put them in the car. It was started. Bonnie sat in the car, watched them. I went back in, wrapped everything up, and she would open the door, and I'd throw it in, and she'd put it in. And then finally, I ran around in the rain, and I pulled out all the stakes, and I collapsed the tent, and I put it in a garbage bag and gave it to Bonnie, and we were sitting there in the car with the windshield wipers going, and Rick was still on the first peg. And I moved my headlights for him. I thought, at least I can light him up, And finally I felt for about 2 seconds, and then I felt really bad, and I went out and got I had brought a cloth thing, and I went out and I pulled his stakes out to help him, but I went, don't put your stakes in too deep. Life is camping. Heaven is home. Be a pilgrim and a stranger. Satan's released. When does it happen? Right at the end of the millennium. It's mind-boggling to think that people could sink so low as to listen to Satan after 1,000 years of seeing Jesus and a perfect world under his rule. Wow. Fear the holiness of Jesus, no scene in the Bible, grips our minds and stirs our souls as much as the last verse of Revelation 20. Imagine the scene. In one moment, all the angels and all the humans who have ever lived on this planet, perhaps as many as 40 billion. How did I get that number? You can look it up. Look at what they think global population, the cumulative amount of humans that have lived since the first ones. In utter silence, the scene opens. In the glow of the glory, surrounded by his throne, stand all the redeemed, and behind them in countless ranks are the angels, and the four angelic creatures are swirling around, and all the dead, small and great, are standing there. Every single person who's ever lived. Not one soul escaped the summons to the court of God Almighty. They're called, one by one, declared guilty by their own words. That's the verse you have to memorize, Revelation 20, verse 15. Whoever's name was not found written in the Lamb's Book of Life was cast in the lake of fire. And they're cast in. And hell is worse than you ever thought. Nobody talked as much about hell as Jesus did. And when Jesus talks about hell, he describes a place of horrible eternal darkness where people are absolutely conscious. And it's never ending. And that's where we'll come back